a lot of people are trying to figure out exactly why this song from this guy has hit just so hard. And I think it comes down to two primary things. One is passion and one is authenticity. And when passion and authenticity meet and mix, they create believability. Viral sensation Oliver Anthony, real name Christopher Lunsford, took the world by storm with his viral hit Men North of Richmond. The folk / country / protest song took aim directly at a government who many believe have given up on hardworking men and women throughout the country. Within a week, 3 of the top 10 songs streamed belonged to the high school dropout from Virginia. So what explains this viral success? If you have been living under a rock and you have not heard any of the song, the Men North of Richmond, I'm going to play a little bit of it for you here.
I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for both pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is.
So that's a little bit of Oliver Anthony's song. Powerful, soulful. His story is basically he was filming himself playing songs on his iPhone. He's been through a deeply depressed time. He lives in a difficult situation. He started playing guitar, writing songs, and just putting them out for the world. And, 12 people would watch it or whatever. And trust me, I'm not dogging him for that. I have many videos on this channel with 12 views.
Wow.
He's just out there, And so a couple of weeks ago, he put out a post. He said, look, I filmed my first song with an actual microphone. I'm going to put it out, see if we can get some traction. And man, he definitely underestimated the traction it was going to get. It blew up, tens of millions of views and listens across all different platforms. He's had so many people reach out to him. He was invited to some kind of fair there in Virginia, like 12,000 people showed up and they're all singing along to his song. Just this Friday, we were taking our oldest son up to college. And in the hotel we were staying in, there was live music and the guy's covering all kinds of songs. And all of a sudden, he's covering this song, like a song that literally just came out from a guy that no one has ever heard of. And the song is very direct. It doesn't really mince words. It's creative in how it lays out its protest, but it's quite direct and it feels very real. It feels like it is coming from a place of very deep authenticity. And like happens when fame comes your way, if you want to watch a very interesting documentary, watch Johnny Football on Netflix right now. Now, warning, there's a lot of bad language in there. So if you're going to watch it with your kids or something, just be warned. But it really, really does a great job just showing how fame can absolutely swallow somebody up. And so fame has come his way and people are digging into his life and people are dissecting his song. Christianity Today said that his song doesn't do a good job loving its neighbor, because that's what Jesus has called us to do. And as a Christian, pastor of a Christian church, I certainly believe that. A few things I think Christianity Today didn't quite take into account is he didn't put this out as a gospel song. Like, this is not a Christian song. It's got bad words in it. Some people are complaining about that, that he uses some foul language in the song. It's like a protest song. I think we have to set our expectations appropriately. Now, you can be offended by the bad language. You can be offended by how he talks about people who are taking advantage of welfare. You can have your opinions on that. People have said just completely unfoundedly that the song is racist because Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy. And so people north of Richmond were the Union. And that has nothing to do with this. The rich men north of Richmond are the politicians in Washington, D.C. That's who he's referencing. People have dug in and said, this guy is playing the part of a guy who's like poor and down and out, but he lives on like a bunch of acres there in Virginia. So Oliver Anthony responded to all of this. I think we were, first of all, surprised to learn that's not actually his name. He went to Facebook, and we'll read a little bit about who he says he is. He says, my legal name is Christopher Anthony Lunsford. My grandfather was Oliver Anthony, and Oliver Anthony music is a dedication not only to him, but to 1930s Appalachia, where he was born and raised. dirt floors, 7 kids, hard times. At this point, I'll gladly go by Oliver because everyone knows me as such. In 2010, I dropped out of high school at age 17. I have a GED from Spruce Pine, North Carolina. I worked multiple plant jobs in Western North Carolina, my last being at the paper mill in McDowell County. I worked third shift 6 days a week for $14.50 an hour in a living hell. In 2013, I had a bad fall at work. I fractured my skull, forced me to move back to Virginia. From 2014 until just a few days ago, I've worked outside sales in the industrial manufacturing world. My job has taken me all over Virginia and into the Carolinas, getting to know tens of thousands of other blue-collar workers on job sites and in factories. I've spent all day, every day for the last 10 years hearing the same story. People are so tired of being neglected, divided, and manipulated. In 2019, I paid $97,500 for the property and still owe about $60,000 on it. I'm living in a 27-foot camper with a tarp on the roof that I got off of Craigslist for $750. There's nothing special about me. I'm not a good musician. I'm not a very good person. I've spent the last 5 years struggling with mental health and using alcohol to drown it. I'm sad to see the world in the state it's in, with everyone fighting with each other. I've spent many nights feeling hopeless that the greatest country on earth is quickly fading away. That being said, I hate the way the internet has divided us. The internet is a parasite. He says, when is enough enough? When are we going to fight for what is right? Millions have died protecting our liberties. Freedom of speech is such a precious gift. Never in world history has the world had the freedom it currently does. Don't let them take it away from you. Just like those once wandering in the desert, we've lost our way from God and have let false idols distract us and divide us. It's a shame. So that is him straight from the horse's mouth. Now, he could be lying. I don't think he is, but that's who he is. That's what he's been through. That's, yes, he has some land. To afford the land, he lives in a $750 trailer that he has to put a tarp over because the roof leaks. In other words, he is the real deal. And a lot of people are trying to figure out exactly why this song from this guy has hit just so hard. And I think it comes down to 2 primary things. One is passion and one is authenticity. And when passion and authenticity meet and mix, they create believability. Passion plus authenticity equals believability. This guy, without knowing who he is, without ever hearing a word from him, just hearing the conviction in his voice, the setting that he's singing in, the words that he wrote, he was believable. And this is a nonpartisan issue. People on both sides, and I don't mean the rich men north of Richmond, I mean normal, everyday, average, middle class, and below Americans, left, right, and center, all believe that the government doesn't actually care about them. Now, there are some people who are idealists and they want a very big government and the government is their blankie and that's what they think. But when you actually pay attention to how the government works, the government is not looking after normal, average, everyday people's interest, first, second, third, or 10th. They have so many conflicts of interest. They have conflicts of interest with the people who lobby them, with the big businesses who support them, with their constituents who scream the loudest. That normal, everyday, average Americans, we are not the priority, even though they are the representatives and the people they're supposed to be representing are average, everyday Americans. And so this is not a guy who's living in Beverly Hills, right? I think the reason that this just jumped past a lot of country music is because this is a guy who actually lives in the country and he's just writing songs that probably would have been edited to no end were he on a music label, but that were just real and coming out of a place of authenticity and coming out of a place of passion. Proverbs 28 says, better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than a rich man who is crooked in his ways. Jesus said to the Pharisees, you are like whitewashed tombs, which appear beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of the bones of dead and every kind of impurity. In other words, you're not believable. You're not authentic. You're hiding who you actually are. In the Message in Luke 12, Jesus tells his disciples, you can't keep your true self hidden forever. Before long, you will be exposed. I think the world is desperate for authenticity and the world is desperate for passion. And that's one of the things that is so attractive about Jesus when we get Jesus right. When our view of Jesus is the Christians who are judgmental and hypocrites and angry and overly political, then we get a view of Jesus who wasn't who he actually was on earth. I know a lot of people have a problem with the TV series The Chosen, But what Dallas Jenkins is trying to do is to recover the authentic feel of what it would have been like to be with Jesus, to be with someone who was perfectly loving. What Jesus did on the cross is literally called the Passion. Jesus was fully authentic, like 100%, the most authentic person who ever walked the earth. And he was 100% passionate. He gave it all the time. Because of that, he's believable. He's an actual historical figure who actually died on a Roman cross. And so many hundreds of people actually believed that he rose again, that they started a movement that I'm still a part of 2,000 years later on a continent that wasn't yet discovered by the people who wrote the scriptures. Like this movement, Jesus said, I'm going to start this movement, and even the power of hell cannot stand against it. And that has proven true. However, when we distort who Jesus is, because a lot of times, one of the Desert Fathers said that you are often the only Bible that anyone will ever read. And so when Christians don't live authentic and passionate lives, people don't get to see who our authentic and passionate leader is. And when we get that right, we become incredibly powerful. And that is the magnet that is the good news of Jesus. When people see Christians who are real, they're not trying to live with some facade of perfection, or they have it all figured out. They're not using judgment and legalism to keep everyone at arm's length. They're passionate. That's the other thing, man. You walk into too many churches and too many religious experiences today, and people just don't even look like they want to be there. The people on stage don't even look like they want to be there. Authentic and passionate. I think that has drawn people into Oliver Anthony. Like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't really know what the deal is, but man, he feels like the real deal. You know, I see this trend to go to a completely different genre of rap and hip hop. I see this trend with Drake, right? Because when Drake first came out, to me, he was the wheelchair guy from Degrassi, you know?
Wow.
Like, and he came out, I think, trying to shake off that reputation. And so a lot of his music was really like gangster, you know, I'm an OG and don't front and don't step to me, don't step to my boys, and we got the guns. And it's like, okay, you know, I mean, when 50 Cent does that, it's authentic. That's the life that he lived. You know, when Eminem talks about coming from the streets and coming from poverty and being a nobody, it's like, yeah, man, you actually feel that. And you can hate that music and despise it and think it's evil and whatever else you think about it, but it's authentic. And there's a real passion behind it, and it becomes believable, and people are looking for things that are believable. And so they're drawn to it. And I know Drake, he had a lot of heat on him earlier. I'm not going to pretend like he wasn't like popping, but for a lot of people, the argument was, isn't that the kid from like the teenage soap opera? And now he's a gangster. Isn't he like from Toronto and raised in wealth, you know? And he's talking about the streets. Like, it just didn't make any sense. And what happened is, along the way, it's like Drake settled into who he actually is. And his songs became kind of carefree. And he would even start really poking fun at himself. A lot of self-deprecating humor, a lot of awkward humor, songs that were more about just having a good time and how I have a lot of money and how, well, that's real. That's authentic to who he is. He does like to have a good time. He does have a lot of money, you know? He is a genius marketer. You know, he is a global brand. So talk about those things. That's authentic, and you can be passionate about it, and you're believable. And you don't really hear that side of the arguments against Drake anymore, because he's just leaned in to who he is authentically. And the mask will come off eventually. Like, you will be exposed. And so if you are a believer and you're trying to live like you're perfect all the time and you're trying to cast shade on everybody else, then the mask will come off. You're not perfect. And the Apostle Paul says, I'm not going to brag about my strengths. My strengths are relatively few. I'm going to brag about my weaknesses, because it's in my weaknesses. It's in my vulnerability. It's in my authenticity that Jesus is actually shown to be strong. And I think we should hold on to that. I think Richmond, North of Richmond, has taken off because it's authentic and it's passionate. And authenticity and passion create believability. And everyone is looking for something that they can believe in. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Clayton Tyner podcast. If you want to watch the full podcast, you can check that out somewhere right around here. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that right over here somewhere. Also, you can follow me at Clayton Tyner. That's Tyner on Twitter and Instagram. I would love for you to subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with everything that we're doing.